Well, back in episode 41 of the Toy Tune podcast, I talked about some of my favorite toys from the Star Wars movies. Episode 41 dealt mainly with the original Star Wars movie. When I first saw it, the toys I had from that particular movie. This came out with The Empire Strikes Back, but I'm going to go ahead and just talk about it anyway. Boba Fett. I thought this guy was really incredibly awesome in Empire Strikes Back when I first saw this character. Really awesome character. And in episode 41 of the Toy Tune podcast, I talked about my original Boba Fett, how I was disappointed that it wasn't the rocket fire one that was advertised on the back of the figure card backs at the time. And I sent off for one, and I remember getting my Boba Fett in the mail, and it had the rocket glued inside of his body. I thought that was a bummer. Would have loved it if he would have fired. But as I described in the podcast, I made my own rocket-firing Boba Fett. And I recreated one. I found this Boba Fett at a local toy store, retro store I go to every once in a while. It was in the junk bin. He's got the faded arms and the faded helmet a little bit. So I figure I'll go ahead and pick him up and I'll go ahead and remake what I had when I was a kid. So back growing up, we had these ballpoint pens. And of course, everybody's familiar with the ballpoint pen. When I was in school, what we used to do is we would take them apart. We would take the spring out of the pen. We would take apart the base and reconfigure it to get the spring trapped down inside. Then we would shove paper inside and put a spit wad on top of it. And the paper would have enough resistance that it would keep the spring compressed. And then when you push the button, it'd shoot the spit wad out. I basically did something like that. Got an old pen, and I got the spring out of it. It took quite a bit, but I was eventually able to get the rocket out of my original Boba Fett. This one was a pain in the butt. And I got the spring. I had to cut it down a little bit. I don't know if I can pick it up. So here's the modified spring right there. It's a little bit shorter. I dropped it down inside the hole, get it lined up here. There we go, got it in the hole. And I've got a really small, fine hole drilled right here in the side, and it has a matching hole in the rocket. I push it in like so. Takes more than one hand. Get in there. There we go. So as I hold them in, I have a small little pin I made. I put it through the hole into the rocket. Just like that. So that's how I made my own rocket firing Boba Fett. So when you want him to fire, you pull the pin out and pew! Woo! That's got some force. Oh, that's awesome. Anyway, that was how I made my homemade rocket-firing Boba Fett back in the day. As always, everyone, thanks for watching. Coming soon to Jabba's palace, it's Jabba bowling. Oh, hello, little Jabbas. So line up the shot. Ready to fire. And